Hello, today we're talking about loops. One of the things that I want to highlight is that in these videos, I go through different editions of the book. And for example, here you will see chapter 4. Don't pay attention to the actual chapter, pay attention to the actual topic that we're discussing. That might change in the next edition. We're talking just the same, so I don't think it would make sense to just do another video just to change the chapter number. Okay. So before I go into what we're actually doing today and what we're going to cover in this chapter, let's go with the situation. Okay, so let's say that I give you this assignment and I ask you to write 100 times welcome to Java. Okay, so with what you know so far, you will do something like this, right? You will basically uh, copy and paste the print statement welcome to Java 100 times. And you can see that this is somewhat inefficient. One, because you're just repeating the same thing over and over. And second, what happens if I come later and say, you know what, instead of 100, let's do 50. You have to go and change your program. Okay, so using loops allow us to do repetitive actions, okay, under a certain number of times. Okay, so there's several ways in how you can do repetitive actions, and that's kind of like what we're going to talk today. We're going to talk about the while loop. Also, we're going to talk about the do while, the for loop, and the step for loop. Okay, in a nutshell. Okay, so how we are going to accomplish something like the assignment that I just gave you. So you will see something like this. All right, so here we have a while loop. And in while, you will have the condition, which is right here. Okay, and basically, while this variable count is less than 100, okay, it will repeat everything inside this block, right? So here you can see the pretty much. Actually, let me just take this code and bring it into my notepad here. Okay, let me just write here. Okay, so you will see that here we have the condition. Okay, and then everything that is inside the curly brackets will get repeated. Okay, so you can see that initially the variable count of integer type is equal to 0. Okay, so then it will go inside the condition. Okay, it will say is count less than 100, so this will evaluate to true. Okay, so when count is 0, right, the condition is true. Okay, and then it will basically do this statement, right? That's the first statement, and then count will be increased by 1, count plus plus. So now count becomes 1, the loop ends, and then it goes again to the beginning. So now it's gonna say is 1 less than 100, okay, and then it will evaluate to true, and then it will keep going and going, right? So when count becomes 100, okay, so it's 100 less than 100, okay, that will evaluate to false, and then once that happens, it will basically jump the loop. Okay, so here gives you basically in a nutshell how this actually works, right? So you can see here we have the while loop, right? So it will check the condition. If it's true, it will do the statement inside the loop, the body, and then we'll just basically going checking the condition. Once it's false, it will come out. Okay, and this is what I just explained to you. Count is equal to 0, and then if count is less than 100, it will execute this command, and then increase count by 1. Now count is equal to 1, and it will just keep looping in here. Then when count is equal to 100, it will evaluate to false, and then it will continue with the program. Let me add a variation to this. I want to print the actual number, the iteration. Right, so here it's just gonna print count. Okay, so now you can see that it runs, and then when it's 99, okay, then that 99 evaluates to 100, and then when it's 100, it doesn't print. Okay, it will basically skip this loop. Let me go and then add here 100. Okay, so now you can see that it goes all the way to 100, and then actually count is equal to a 101 at the end. Right, so if I print just the variable count after, right after my loop, that should be 101. Okay, so it's very important how the variables actually play in here, right? So you can see that in the while we test the condition before. The other variation, I will go later into that, but I will just talk about it real quick so you can see it, is the do while. Okay, so in the do while, technically all I have to do is just move the while condition here and doing do, put a do. Okay, let me just get rid of this, and then I need a semicolon. Okay, and you can see here the variation, do while. Okay, and it works the same. But look here, I'm gonna just make it less than 100. Okay, and you can see that pretty much is the same output. But you will say, what is the difference? Well, the thing is that in the do while, the code is executed at least once, right? Because you can see here that we do the condition after. So you execute once and then you check. Okay. In the while, the way you have it before, I'm just gonna go back and undo. Right? In the while, you check first and then you execute the commands, right? But you can see that the statement is pretty much the same, right? So that's something that you should consider. Let's look at this code, which is the repeat addition quiz, and you can see here that pretty much is the same as we had before in the previous chapter. The only thing is that we have a while loop. Okay, and you can see here that in the condition is that if the sum is not equal to the answer, then this will evaluate to true, and then pretty much it's gonna stay in this loop until you provide the right answer. Right, so here you can see that you have the answer, and then you check, and then basically it will just keep checking until you get it. Okay, so I can pretty much have this code here. Let me see, repeat. Okay, repeat addition quiz, which is this one. Okay, so let's run this so you guys can see it. Okay, so now it's asking 6 plus 5, right? So it's getting two random numbers, which is number 1 and number 2. Then here it creates the scanner object. Then now it's stating the problem. Okay, so this line here, what is 6 plus 5, is what you see right here. And then here it's just asking for the input, right? So this is where I enter my value. So I'm just gonna put 10. So when I put 10 and I press enter, it will go to my while loop and it's gonna check the condition, right? So 6 plus 5, which is 11, is not equal to 10, which is the answer I'm providing. So this will evaluate to true, going into this loop, okay? And then it says, wrong answer, try again. What is 6 plus 5? It's just going to ask me again. And this is going to ask me for the answer. And then it will just stay there until this evaluates to false. And then it will just say, you got it. Okay, so wrong answer, try again. I'm going to try with a 3. Wrong answer, try again. Now 11. Then it will just break the loop and it will say, you got it. So when you're designing your loops, I mean, how do you get to that decision in saying, you know what, I need like a while loop, later we'll talk about for loop. Pretty much the first thing that you have to be aware is that you are repeating statements. Okay, every time that you see that you're repeating an action over and over again, okay, like let's say selection of a menu, then this is a big big identifier, I would say, that you will need a loop. Okay, so then you have to identify the statement that need to be repeated. Those statements will then need to be wrapped around a while loop in this case, or a do while, depending on what you're doing. Okay, and then you have to construct the condition. Okay, what is the condition that will make you repeat these statements, right? And that's pretty much how you can come up um, with a loop design. Okay, so in our case, pretty much the statement that we needed to repeat was pretty much in this case asking the question when the student had the a wrong answer. Okay, and then here the condition is that the answer has to be um, not equal in order to repeat this, right? So here these are the statement that will get repeated, right? Just technically the question, the statement for the problem, and then getting the input. In this other case, the statement that we're repeating is basically the print or the display of welcome to Java, and the condition is that it has to be less than 100, right? And then this is the wrap. Okay. This is a nice technique which is called a Sentinel value. A Sentinel value is basically a value that you will use to stop your repetition. Okay, so for example, in this code, they're asking you to enter a number, right? And then pretty much you it will keep going into the loop until you stop entering, until you enter a zero, right? So basically, you see here it says enter the integer. The input ends if it's zero. Okay, let's see if I have that code in here. And you have access to all these codes, so you can see them. Right, so I'm just gonna walk you through it. Here we have the creation of the object, so we can enter values. Okay, and here, basically, you are reading the first piece of data. Right, so it says enter an integer value. The program will exit if you enter a zero. Right, so this is my Sentinel value. Okay, so you will get your first value. Okay, so in this case, you are adding numbers. Right, so you can see that we here the sum is equal to 0. Then if data is not equal to 0, right, that's my Sentinel value, it will just keep going into the loop, right? And you can see that it will add the number that you enter to sum, right? So here you can accumulate values. And then it will just keep going and going. And then pretty much it will give you the sum, right? So let's run this. Okay, so here, for example, here if I enter a 4, okay, enter a 3, enter a 2, and then enter a 0, you can see that the sum is 9, right? 4 plus 3 plus 2. Okay. Let's try uh, changing this. Let's say if we can get the average. Okay, so here I'm gonna create another variable. Okay, so I'm just gonna call it average. In this case, it will be double. Okay, so it will say average is equal to 0. Okay, and then I will say count. This will be an integer. Integer count is equal to 0, right? So now what I'll do is that whenever I enter a value, I will add by 1, right? So count plus plus. Okay. Now here, so now every time that I add a number, I have one more, one more, one more, right? So if I do this 3 times, I will get a 3. And now I'm just gonna print the average, right? So actually I need to calculate the average, right? So the average is equal to sum divided by count. Okay. And then here I will just now print again and say the average is and then average. Okay, let's see how this works. Okay, so I'm gonna enter the same three values, 4, 3, and 2, because the average of that should be 3, right? 4, 3, and 2, 0 now to exit, right? And the average is 3.0. So it works great, right? You can also print the number of digits if you want, right? So I say the number of digits is, and then I will put here count. Okay. Try again. 4, 3, 2, 0, right? So you can see sum is 9, average is 3, number of digits is 3. I mean, you can do so many things in here. Okay, so you can have a running average if you want. For example, like as you enter numbers, you are calculating the average. So that's pretty simple. You can say system dot out. No, actually, maybe we should do it here. I should do it just right here. System dot out dot println. You know, and the thing is that as you understand what you're doing, I mean, playing around with this is just easy, right? I mean, of course, I've been doing this for a year, but this is how you should be playing around with code. Okay, so I say the running average, and then here I will say sum divided by count. Okay. Okay, and then let's put here some spaces. Let's try that. So enter a value. I'm gonna enter a 4. So the running average is 4, right? But it makes sense. 4 divided by one number is 4. Let's try the other one. So it should be 3.5. The running average is 3. What is wrong in there? Because these two are integers, right? And that's why it's always nice to convert them to double, like we did in here. Okay, so the nice thing to do, and actually I don't prefer this because then you can see here sum divided by count, it doesn't tell me anything. But if I create a variable called running average, okay, now I can calculate that. I can say running average, and notice how I troubleshoot my code as I type, right? You know, I don't write the whole thing. I do one thing, try see how it works, make sense of it, and then fix it right there. Okay. So I'm doing this in real time. I haven't practiced this, right? I'm just making this up as I type. So 4, running average is 4.0. I like that. It gives me a 4.0. Now let me try 3. Running average is 3. Okay. And I know and I know how, to troubleshoot this, right? This is how I will do it now in real life, right? And this is how I will troubleshoot things. The first thing I will do, I will do sum divided by count. But what I'm guessing is that my problem is that I need to cast one of these guys, right? So I will cast this as a double. That's the first thing I'm gonna try. And actually that will give me a problem down here. So I will do it over here too. Now I know why it just gave me 3, because that's the actual average, but you know, with a decimal I would have had an error. So let me try here again. 4. Okay, average is 4. 3. average is 3.5, right? And you can see the importance of casting. Okay, here I didn't pick up that error because I used the numbers 4, 3, and 2. Okay, which the average is 3. But if I have used the numbers 4, 3, and 1, then I will have been able to pick up the error, right? So why don't we try that, right? That way you can see it. 4, 3, and now 1, and now 0, right? So see, the running average is 2.66, but my answer is going to be 2, right? So you can see that this number and this number doesn't match because this guy needs to be cast as a double. Okay, so notice that you can have compilation errors or logic errors in this one. So you should be able to really understand your code to know what's going on. Okay. Now let's try again. 4, 3, and 1. And now 0 to finish. And you can see that the two numbers are the same. Okay. Okay, so hopefully this helps.